Hi, I'm Wendy Friesen, and I want to teach you something about your brain and why I love using hypnosis to help you have a better brain, a better experience, and a better life. So what I want to tell you about is a process that I call mind machines, and it's basically making these imaginary machines in your brain that do a very specific function. So a mind machine might help you remember names. It might help you be a better speller. It might help you read faster. It may help you in a way like if you're studying for an exam, that you're going to create this machine that's going to store all the information. I did these mind machines with some market makers in San Francisco, and we built these machines that would do this math function where it would help them with the things they needed to make offers in the pits and these unlike fractions. And it performed a really high-level function, and it was really cool. But you can build a mind machine for almost any purpose, and it's really simple. But I want to tell you why you need to do this. So in parts 1 and parts 2 of how your brain works, I was talking about the dendrites, the neural activity, the neural networks, and all the things you need to create a different mindset or a different outcome or a new skill or ability. Well, your brain can do this and search for all the areas in your brain that are needed to support that ability or that skill. And it could take some time because your brain has to search and figure out where those things come from. And it takes a little bit from here and a little bit from there and a little bit from there. And eventually it ties it all together. Well, creating a machine, and these are imaginary machines, of course. These don't really exist. Creating this machine helps your brain to have a specific way and place and image and function that's going to make this happen the fastest. So what we want to do is decide what the thing is that you want to make happen in this machine. A great example to start with is doing spelling. And I make these spelling machines for kids. We could do them for adults as well. But you imagine this machine, and it has buttons or levers or colors. And you imagine that this machine has the ability to hear a word. The word goes into the machine, and then in whatever way you want, push a button or a lever, it spits out the word spelled correctly. And then you can know how to spell a word. Well, somewhere in your brain you have to know the correct spelling of that word in order for the machine to come up with it. But you know that we have this massive memory bank in our heads. We have the ability to recall things just as if we are an autistic savant, and we can, recall everything that ever happened on any day of our lives. Apparently all that information is in our brain. So we know that unconsciously we have much more ability than we could ever imagine to accomplish things or recall things or to store information in our brain or to be a better musician or to be more powerful or stronger. So by building a mind machine and then bringing in several elements into the function of the mind machine, it's possible that you're speeding up the process, or you're also adding the unconscious ability to perform that function. Well, if you were wanting to make a mind machine that is going to help you to be, let's say, more confident when you're speaking in front of a group, for instance, you might imagine, with your eyes closed and you'd relax and take a few breaths, you might imagine that there's this machine that has lights and colors, and when you turn it on, it just churns and churns, and it starts humming and purring beautifully and smoothly. And this machine has a little charisma setting, so you could turn up the charisma, and maybe it has a little screen on it. I mean, your machine can happen in any way you want. I'm just giving you an example off the top of my head. And on this little screen, if you turn up the charisma, you just see an image of yourself lighting up in front of a stage, and your face is just glowing and happy. And perhaps you turn up the posture or body language button. And as you do that on the screen, you see yourself having a really great, strong body posture that says to people that you have great confidence, you have something to say, that you're interesting, that you're in charge, whatever it is. Maybe the button or lever has something where you turn up the strength. And when you turn up the strength, you just become a person who is mentally stronger, who's physically stronger, who really knows how to take an entire audience and keep their attention, something like that. So you put the things into it that you want. So a machine like that Every time you do one of those things that you're like turning up that button and you're imagining it having that power, while you're doing that, your brain is looking for the ability that you have somewhere in your brain that supports it. Your machine is not going to send neural activity to the parts of your brain that say, I'm shy, I'm stupid, I won't remember what to say, I can't stand to speak in front of a group. It's not going to do that. We only program the machine to find the abilities and the resources to do exactly the thing that it's supposed to do. So this machine in your brain, it actually represents what is happening with these neural networks. And I talked about those in the previous parts of this. And the neural networks are being built with only the information that we do want. So if you want to be a great speller and you're building a mind machine for that, you're not going to add into that mind machine all the times when you've embarrassed yourself in school by spelling the words wrong, or all the tests that you got an F on that had all those, the words marked out in red. You're only putting in the information that supports you spelling correctly. You could do this for test anxiety, for instance. You could be studying, and let's say that you're reading a book and you read a paragraph, and there's a certain concept and there's a few pieces of information that are really important. Then you stop, you take a deep breath, you close your eyes, and you find your spectacular memory machine, whatever it looked like when you set it up, so you could have this amazing photographic memory. And when you look at that machine, you notice that it has certain colors and certain wheels and levers, or maybe it's just one hovering, glowing orb, whatever it looks like is fine. But after you do this paragraph, you close your eyes and relax, then you imagine putting that information you just studied into that machine. And let that information absorb into there, and then notice how you retrieve it and recall it. Is there a little button, or do you just have to see a word, and maybe the word glows somewhere in the machine that is a certain country's geography or something, and it brings all the information that you just studied. So the thing that you have to do in order to have a good memory is you have to let your brain absorb the information and put it in a specific place where you can recall it later. You're not going to have one machine that is for everything, because that doesn't make sense. Your brain is very compartmentalized. Your brain stores information in very specific places. When you make a mind machine, you make the mind machine for one specific function. For instance, retaining all the information for your biology exam, for instance. Or, memorizing the names and dates of a bunch of things of one specific category. In fact, the brain is so compartmentalized. There's something I read about people who've had strokes. And sometimes, a person who has a stroke can't remember the names of any vegetables. That part of their brain was damaged. But they can remember the names of fruits. What sense does that make? I know, it's crazy, huh? So that's how specific the brain is to the region that is damaged. If it wipes out their vegetables, vegetable names were stored in a specific place. Fruit names were stored somewhere else. So is it starting to make sense? That if you make a machine that's too broad or general, you're asking your brain to perform too many functions, and you want to narrow it down to something very specific. You can build as many of these as you want. You could build one for strength in your sport. You need to be stronger, and you need a quick burst of endurance and strength, and you need to just have a sudden surge of power. Well, before you played the game, perhaps you built a mind machine, and in that machine you had all these experiences of times you've been really strong and really focused, and you did a great job. And then you also built into that machine your future ability to do that, imagining and envisioning and seeing and feeling yourself having that real power just turn on and having a greater store of power that comes up. Make sense? Cool. All right.